Give you a few minutes to come in. I have another hard subject to tackle tonight. One of my subscribers said that she wanted to talk about postpartum depression tonight. So I'm kind of looking to see if she's coming into the chat tonight. And that's what we will be covering over here tonight at Chatting with Ms.V. There's a story that kind of draws close to home, and I've mentioned it out here before that I was getting a master's degree at the University of Houston, and I did one of my assignments was postpartum depression. That would have been back around 2001. So it's been quite a few years ago. So I'm relying on a lot of my memory. I sit down and I try to jot down notes so I could try to jog my memory and not have to go back and research it all over again. So any comments that you make tonight or anything you want to just drop in the chat about it, or maybe you've been through it, I can honestly say I did not. Probably because I've been so busy all of my life. And at that time, when I was in the childbearing stage, I was busy working and I only had 6 weeks off from work. I was at Amico at the time, and they gave us 6 weeks off after having a child. So my thing was more concerned about getting a babysitter and making sure that I would be gone from her 12 hours a day, trying to breastfeed for the first time in my life. No mother around. She's in another state, no aunts around. Just relying on what the doctor says and what comes natural and from friends who had done it before. There you are, Tajisti. So I decided to come on in tonight, Tajisti, and tackle the subject of postpartum depression. I want to speak to each and every one of you, not individual at this time. I'm going to jump on into it. I see someone says I can't speak on that. I didn't get it, so I'll just listen. That's thing. I didn't either, but I asked today, give me something y'all wanted to talk about, and this was something that Tajisti wanted to talk about. Where she's going with it, she'll have to drop it in the chat because I really don't know. I'm going to take it from what I know and my experience of writing the topic for my paper when I was working in psychology at the University of Houston. So, Sting, I don't know how long you've lived in this area, but anybody around the Houston area that lived here around 2001, remember the Andrea Yates story. That was the closest to home that I could identify with at the time. So when they gave out the different topics on psychology, I chose that one because that had just happened not even a year before I went there, because this was sometime around the end of middle of 2000, somewhere like that. So it doesn't seem like it's been that long, but we're in 2023 now. So it's been at least 22 to 23 years ago. Andrea Yates was born here in America, July the 3rd, 1964, in Houston, Texas. So it's very close to home. She was a very smart lady, a registered RN, valedictorian of her class, well liked, well known. She married a guy by the name of Rusty Yates, and they had 5 children back to back. On June the 20th, 2001, Andrea Yates drowned her 5 children in the family bathtub, one by one. She took the oldest first and went all the way down to the baby. After drowning them, she laid them on the bed and covered them. She then called 911 and told the police to come out. And when they arrived, this is what they found. She said that at her trial that Noah was the hardest to drown because he was the bigger, he was a boy, he was the stronger one of the kids. I'm sure getting on down the line, they don't even know what's going on. Maybe they thought they were taking a bath, the little ones. The baby had no idea, no clue what was going on. Noah did. Noah was responsible for helping her even take her medication. She had been diagnosed with postpartum depression, and the doctors had told her to not have any more babies because the future did not look very bright. But they didn't. So this was the end results. She is in prison now for life, and she may get parole in 40 years. So she's served half of her parole time by now. And she's being treated in prison for insanity. Mental illness best describes it all. Rusty, her husband, blamed the judicial system for letting Adrian down. The only person he didn't blame was Rusty himself. When they went to the doctor and they were told that they needed to stop having babies, neither one of them did anything to prevent it. And this is the tragic outcome of what happened to them. It's in a city not very far from where I live now. And I've even owned a business there in Clear Lake. So I started my report at their home. That was the beginning of my report. I could see how having those babies back to back with no help whatsoever, living in a house that looked like a fort. There was a fence all the way around the house, and I'm not talking about a 6 foot or 8 foot fence. It was as tall as the roof. So you would have to get up on a ladder or a stool or something to even look over inside of this house. So I went there and walked around, being a friend of mine, she's now deceased, went there, and she was helping me with the projects, taking pictures and stuff like that. And I finally found a crack in the gate where I could peep in and see what the inside looked like. It was just a normal looking home on the outside. Yard kept up. But she had no vision of what the outside world looked like. She was there with those babies all day, every day by herself, and not really getting the mental treatment that she needed. The kids were growing normal like any other children would, but in her mind, she felt that they weren't and that they would be better off dead. So that's what she did. She believed that killing the children would save their souls, and she testified to this at her trial. Yates was convicted of capital murder and sentenced to life in prison and possibly a parole in 40 years. She did know what she did was illegal, even though she thought it was right. That's kind of hard to believe, but this is what the psychiatrists and psychologists came up with. And I do believe that a woman of her intellect probably did know that what she was doing was wrong, having been a registered nurse. But once the mental health, her mental health broke down and she did not get the help that she needed, that's when the problems began. They were ignored by those who did come around her. She seemed perfectly normal to them, I suppose. It wasn't until the very end, just before she committed this act, that other family members were coming into the home to help her with the children. She was going to a place in League City to get help called, well, I'm not going to name the place, but a place in League City. And it wasn't the type of facility that could handle postpartum psychosis or depression. So basically, she still didn't get the help that she needed. It had nothing to do with the judicial system at all. Like Rusty said, it was them not doing what the doctor said, no more babies, and them not getting her the help that she needed when they saw all the signs and symptoms were there. I recall in my report that there were days that she would go for a week without even bathing. Now, you're living with this woman and you seeing this, and you mean to tell me you don't know something is wrong? She's completely out of the norm. She thought it was right. She believed she was battling Satan. And in reality, she probably was. The Satan was living in the home with her, next to her, making babies with her, and not giving her the proper care or the help that she needed. Sad, but true. He is now married, has been for some years, in the same church that the babies were funeralized in. He remarried in that church, and he now has more children. Insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. It's not going to happen. You're going to get the same result every time if you do it the same way every time. Nothing's going to change. They used the Durham test at that time, which entitles a person to an insanity defense if their illegal conduct is the product of mental disease or defect. At this time, this test is no longer used in any U.S. jurisdiction. She tried twice to commit suicide by cutting her wrist, and that didn't work. That was a crying out sign right there that something was wrong. So consequently, the postpartum depression got worse to the point that on that dreadful day, she took her children's lives, which she showed signs of loving them to death. She was also homeschooling them. So she was with these kids 24/7, all day, every day. That's too much for anybody. You don't know what's going on the outside world at all. What is proof of insanity? They did not know that their actions were illegal. They did not know they were committing an act, or they were forced to commit the offense by irresistible force. That is proof of insanity. Okay, I'm trying to go on down to make sure that I'm not missing any comments here. Okay. Chico says, oh, yes, I remember her. That was a heartbreaking case. Yes. And it even gets deeper than that, Chico. At one time, down where Miss Margaret lives in Hitchcock, Texas, he had bought an old bus, gutted it out, hauled it out, and they were actually living in this bus. Air conditioned, bathroom, and he had place. You know how you have a mobile home, or uh, what do you call it? Vacation home, and you bunk the beds up against the wall like a RV. This is how he had it inside. And I also had pictures in that report. I wish so much I knew where the report is today, because I made an A on it. I was real proud of that. But I've moved so much, I have no idea where that report is. But I had pictures of the bus. It was a long, like a trailway bus, and all the seats and everything. So it was made like a home inside. Small kitchen area, one bathroom area. There's 7 people to use it. Um, 4 beds up against the walls. I guess maybe in some cases 2 of them had to sleep in the same bed. And the baby had to sleep in the bed with them. When I think about it all over again, it seems like yesterday that I was collecting information on this. And I actually ended the report down at Forest Park in League City at their graves. That's the end of my report. When I went out to the grave site, you had to go in the office first to find out, because this is a huge cemetery. So I had to go into the office first to find out where the kids were buried. There's a stream of water that runs through this cemetery, and they are right there on the water, the bank, I guess you would call it, of the water. And before I went out to see it and take pictures of it to put in my report, the lady told me, she said, be very careful when you go out there. A lot of people have run out of there screaming and hollering and crying. And I'm thinking, why? So she told me, she says they're on the bank where the stream comes through. And the shadows from the grave, when you look at them and you glance into the water, it looks like they're moving. And it did. I experienced that. But had she not told me, I probably would have freaked out and went running out of there also. Beautiful grave headstones. Noah loved butterflies. So all of the graves had butterflies on them. And that was one of the projects that he did all the time, was catch butterflies. And it was a real alarming to me to see the longest grave was his. And then they went on down to a little bitty short grave, which would have been the baby. And I believe she was about 9 months old at the time this happened. So let's see. Other things that I had in my report was a 5-5-5 rule. After having a baby, there should be 5 days in the bed, 5 days on the bed, and 5 days near the bed. Actually, to be perfectly honest, through most of the research that I did, people are so engaged these days in getting into the house and seeing you and seeing the baby. But you shouldn't. You should be taking that time to bond with your child and to recover from your body being traumatized during childbirth. The hormones go out of whack, along with many other things that can happen while you're pregnant. This gives you a solid 2 weeks of focused, intentional rest. It also helps to get your priorities in order when it comes to the eager visitors. They will get to see the baby, but they don't make the rules. You know how everybody who had already had a baby came in trying to tell you everything. They were just off the chain. They knew everything about having a baby. And I'm sure each pregnancy, I only had one, so I can only speak of one. Okay, live birth, that's it. But I'm sure each pregnancy can be different if you've had multiple children. Many cultures prescribe a 30 to 40-day period of rest and recovery with the woman and her newborn child. And I think that's probably the best thing that could happen is you take the time to bond with your child and let your body heal and just recover normally, where a lot of people can't afford to do that. I was able to stay home for 6 weeks, paid. Now, if I wanted to stay home longer, I would have had to take off. At that time in my life, I was 27 years old when I had her. We had bought a new home. We had bought 2 new cars. We had a house full of brand new furniture. And we have now a baby girl. We had been married 4 years at the time. So I don't think I could have afforded to stay at home with all of these bills that we had and be okay with it. So thank God the babysitter, I called her the nanny because she was there every time you turned around. If you work in 12 hours, she's the nanny because she's has her longer than you do. I had her on my days off, and I had her at night when I was working days. When I worked nights, she stayed with Miss Jocko for those whole 4 days. And I picked her up on the 5th day of the 4th night when I got off, or the 4th morning when I got off. And we stayed together most of those 4 days. Miss Jocko would not even let me take her to the beauty shop or to the grocery store. She went nowhere with me. If I had to go somewhere on my days off, I had to take her to her. She was like the mother, the grandmother. She was everybody because my mother wasn't here. My brother that played professional football got married on the day that she was born. So they came from his wedding to my house when she was 2 days old. I had it announced at the wedding that she had a 7 pound, 14 ounce, 21 inch baby girl. And they all left the wedding and the next day arrived at my house. So that's how mine went. My mother was able to stay with me for a week and then she had to go back home. She was still teaching school at the time. My brother went on his honeymoon. My husband went to work. So it was me and my baby. And I bonded and I stayed in the house. It was a cold, cold winter. That was December of 1981 was a very cold winter here in Texas. And I can remember so well because we stopped by Walgreens on the way home from the hospital to pick up a prescription. And I was sitting in the car with the heater on, and it seemed like it was the air conditioner on. It was that cold outside. We used to have some pretty cold winters here when I first moved here to Houston, but times have changed. Okay. The vaginal recovery after childbirth takes a few weeks. The pelvic usually returns to normal the first 2 or 3 months. However, recovery continues after childbirth for at least a year. So those women who have babies back to back within a year or shortly after a year, your body hasn't fully healed yet. Some people go through postpartum for a few days, some a month, some it takes years to recover. They don't have the answers as to why. In 2023, it's a natural occurrence for some people. Why? Medical science cannot tell you. They don't know. The drugs that are now given for postpartum psychosis is a combination of antipsychotic and lithium is used to treat most cases of postpartum psychosis. That's some heavy drugs. You better not miss a dose either. Because when you're dealing with mental health, the dosage and the amount plays a big part of your recovery. Once you get off of it, you have to be evaluated all over again, and that drug that you were on may not work the next time around. I got far enough into the master's program to share this much knowledge with you, but this was one of the reasons why I left the program, because at that point I realized this was not for me. I couldn't take the children coming in and putting them on drugs when it just didn't seem fair. Everybody at that time was given the same drug, Ritalin. Okay, that didn't make sense to me. And then in adult psychology, there were things that were puzzling to me. You want these people to come in to see you once a week, once every 2 weeks. What are you doing besides taking money? Okay, if it's that bad, shouldn't they be hospitalized somewhere where they could have undivided attention? How is it that they can go back into the real world with this type of problem? And I think that's why so many people don't get the real help that they need, because I've said it more than once. The U.S. is far behind in mental illness. Yeah, we've come a long ways with physical illnesses, but mental illness is not diagnosed. People just say, oh, she crazy. Oh, that's just her. But is it normal? Can you compare it to the rest of the world? There's also something called baby pinks. I don't know if you've ever heard of that, because this is something I found tonight. Baby pink is a feeling of extreme euphoria or mild mania experienced by some people who have given birth. I have never heard of baby pinks, but I found it in the research tonight. It takes about 6 months for your body to go back to normal. Within 6 months to a year for full recovery. Okay, so it means you really do need to kind of take care of yourself. Okay, I can't comprehend why my friend left a 9-month-old baby and committed suicide. If it's postpartum depression, I want to know more about it. I'm not sure. You probably are going to have to wait to Gisty until the autopsy report comes in. Just from the little bit of information that you put out here, it sounded like if she committed suicide behind her husband, that this was something gone wrong between him and her. We may never know. And you never will be able to comprehend why she left a small baby behind. At that point, the brain has completely unraveled. If she could wake up right now, she probably couldn't tell you. At that time, she just thought that was the best thing to do to get her out of her misery. She wasn't probably even thinking about the children that she was leaving behind, or maybe she felt like it was enough people that's going to be left behind where the children were going to be taken care of. She wanted out of here. That's all I can see. When they decide to take their life, they're ready to go. Andrea had tried twice. That was a sign right there. Somebody dropped the ball. They missed it. I've been here since maybe 1970. You know the story, Sting? Yeah. I considered her a friend. She was good to me. And we invited each other for any occasions. And you saw nothing to Gisty. She covered it up well. That's usually the case. Sometimes they'll leave a note, sometimes they don't. If she didn't leave any note saying anything, you will never know. Hey, manifest, totally controlling individual or of abuse that he was doing to her. It could have been mental abuse, which is just as bad as physical abuse. If you saw no signs to just of any physical marks or having to go to the doctor, the hospital for anything physical, then it could have been truly mental. Mental abuse can be worse than physical. Physical is going to heal at some point. And you may have a scar or something left from it, but mental abuse is totally different. There's some things that you can put on people that they cannot shake. Everybody is not as strong as the next person. I consider myself a pretty strong person to have gone through even the changes of things that I've gone through. Probably more stronger than any of my siblings. Yeah, to be able to walk into my mother's house and sit down, do a program, go up there, fix her hair, makeup, make sure she had the clothes she needed. She was an Eastern Star, so she had to be changed twice. Once in white and then buried in pink, I believe it was. Yeah. My sister didn't even go with me. I went up there by myself. I asked my daughter to go with me. Nobody wanted to go. They love grandma. They love their mother. But when it came down to it, it's always going to be one in the family that's going to have to step up to the plate and do what it has to be done. They hadn't done anything until I drove up, just walking in circles. They hadn't gone to the funeral home to make no arrangements. They hadn't done anything. Nothing. So I knew, okay, this monkey's on your back. You got to do what you got to do. And you don't really have a lot of support. So it is what it is. Do you think suicide has something to do with the devil taking control of the individual? Yes, Tajisti, I do. I think you allow him to take control of you and your life. That's my belief. And I could be totally wrong, but that's what I believe. Okay. Let me get on down to the comments, and then I'll come back and speak to everybody. Manifest says, as Muslims, we do not allow this. We must heal. That's a great thing, Manifest, and good to know, because I don't know a whole lot about other different religions. And Muslim faith, I've never been to a mosque or anything. I had neighbors in Baltimore on both sides of me that were Muslims, but I don't know a lot about it. I've been Baptist all my life, but I visited Episcopalian churches, Presbyterian, Catholic, Methodist, lots of different churches before, because I have friends of all faiths. But that's one I know very little about. Okay. Hey, Pierre, how you doing? Jam, all who have entered. Carla, I thank God I had plenty of help. My first is 5 years older than my second. Your body had plenty of time to heal, and the 5-year-old could at least go get the bottle or the pamper or diaper or whatever they had back then for you. So that was a good thing. Manifest says mothers require separation during the carrying process, and also separation from venturing out on the environment, as it can be harmful to the child before birth. That's good to know, and I believe that. Today's mothers are not doing that at all. You see them having babies, like, for example, on Friday, and they up and out the next day, out of the hospital, and they gone on about their business. And this is a little bitty baby. They're exposed. This baby has been in a sterile environment for 9 months, if it's a normal birth. And they are taking this baby everywhere, and everybody's touching it. Everybody's holding it. I could not expose my child to that. At least she was in 6 weeks without being exposed to a lot of the outside world. Yeah. Um, Drugs are not necessary to assist with every major medical issue. I had my child naturally, 21 hours of painful labor. But once the child came, I cannot describe to you how bad the pain was. My doctor was actually delivering another baby at the same time I was in labor. He never made it into the room to do anything but stitch me up. That's it, okay? When she started coming, she came, and there was a Caucasian baby with red hair born at the same time. I think I've told y'all this story. I had red hair at the time. I had colored my hair red. And they brought the redhead baby into me and took my baby into the Caucasian family as a joke. When I saw that baby, I had already looked at my baby and saw my baby was bald head, no hair. You couldn't tell if it was a girl or a boy. Okay? But I knew that's what came out of me. So they bring this baby in here full of hair, red hair. No, that is not my baby. They were about the same color because she was very, very pale when she got here. But no, that's not my baby. The joke is on y'all. It ain't on me. I have not had any drugs whatsoever. So I know what came out of me. Okay. Chatting with Ms.V, you are speaking on some very important details. However, could elaborate more with personally. I am only able to use one hand at this moment. Okay, but I appreciate you commenting, Manifest. Hi, Jeremy. How you doing? Welcome to Chatting with Ms.V. We're talking, Jeremy, about, and this can affect the man too, postpartum depression, psychosis, after childbirth, some of the signs you need to look for. And we also discussed in here a case that happened here in Houston where I happened to live back in 2000, 2001 with the Andrea Yates case, which was all over national news. Okay. She was a registered nurse here. Her husband was employed at the Johnson Space Center down the street here. So everybody in this area kind of like clinged on because it was 5 children that were unalived by her through drowning. Okay. There will always be one. I too am that one. Hey, coffee, wine, and water. Welcome to Chatting with Ms.V. Okay, Sting is telling you it's postpartum depression. Master Ford and Minister Elijah studied much of the proper rearing of woman, bearing children, and understanding mental issues. Okay, that's from the Muslim faith, right? Chico Stick, seeing the way Peach Mike T unravel on camera is very concerning unless it's for social media content. Not sure if I know her. I see Miss Loretta sometimes when I had time to watch YouTube, but I never did get into the story, Chico. It seems as though she does a lot and says a lot that's kind of unnatural. And she has a lot of children. I know that. And she brings it all to the forefront. I'm like you. I don't know if it's for social media, if that is who she really is. Because I've never watched her. I only heard commentary about her. But I'm kind of like you. I hope it is for social media content because she is one of those content creators that has a lot of subscribers and she is making a lot of money out here on social media, bringing her own life story. Jeremy says, oh, I wish love to everyone going through pain. It is so hard. Yep, any kind of pain is dreadful. Okay, thank you for that, Jeremy. I knew some whose sister took her own life and she was around 7 months pregnant. So sad. Elaine says, good evening, Ms.V in chat, running late, but we'll catch the rest when I watch the replay. Okay, Elaine, you always do, and I appreciate you. Thank you for being here, Yo-Yo. Okay. Sting says her first son was natural. Hey, Angela Brooks. Jennifer Thomas, good evening. How are you doing? Manifest say, I do recall the case you are speaking on with the A. Yates. It was very hurtful. And there was also a case out in California in 2015. Let me try to remember. It was a woman who was found guilty of first-degree murder and the stabbing of her children also. And she unalived 3 daughters, ages 2, 16 months, and 3 months. And 3 psychiatrists and a psychologist attested that the Colorado was suffering from Coronado was her name. I don't know if that's the first name or the last name, was suffering from postpartum psychosis also. So it's very prevalent. There are also a lot of celebrities who have gone through this and they came out of it, but they had the help that they needed. They had the therapy, not necessarily so much medication, but you need somebody to talk you through this, what to expect, what your body is going through and why. All of these questions are going through your mind. You think you're losing your mind. It's no different than when you are going through menopause, which we've talked about that over here. You may think you are losing your mind because you're not getting enough rest at night. You're not sleeping like you normally do. Your body is going through a change. And it's the same thing when you're pregnant. Your body is going through a change. After the pregnancy, your body is going through a change. And then it's going to come back again later at the end of childbearing stages. You'll face it again. So a woman goes through a lot that a man will never understand unless he truly loves you and he can get off into what you're really going through and go to the doctor with you so it can be explained to him. Because that's the only way he'll know and understand. Otherwise, he'll just see you doing weird stuff and think, wow, what's wrong with this woman? But it's just not what's wrong with her. It's what she's going through. Peach came to Houston via Hobby. She made a short saying Hobby was ghetto and the people that worked there were poor. Ain't nothing ghetto about Hobby. And the people that work there from different airlines, and some of them have very strict dress codes. Southwest is probably the most relaxed dress code there. But having worked for the airlines and the airports in my lifetime, you ain't gonna come up in there looking no any kind of way representing the companies that work there. I don't care if it's American, Delta, Southwest, Frontier, whoever. When you come to work, it's a certain type of way. We had to even wear our hair pulled up in the gallery. Heels when you're walking through the airport. You only got to wear flats when you got on that plane. You could wear boots in the wintertime, but you had to wear their brand of clothing and you had to represent them. They ain't gonna even hire you, first of all. So I don't agree with that statement. Okay? Manifest says, it's horrible seeing families bring in so much of their lives on social media, choose not to watch it all. Yeah, you got to discern what you want to get involved in, even in the chats these days. You can't just come out and express your opinion because you don't know if the content creator is going to flip on you. And it might be in my chat and she go to her chat and talk about you on her channel. Social media has changed so much until it's just not that safe anymore to make a lot of comments out here. And especially if it can be used defensively against someone else, or in their mind, they think you're talking about them. They're very sensitive to their feelings, but unsensitive, if that's a word, are not sensitive to other people's feelings. I always keep in mind, if you talk about somebody, they're more likely to come for you because they're coming for you even if you haven't talked about them. It's the way it is out here. Drama sells. Okay? Um, I was a general manager at the Wendy's behind the Yates family home. Coffee, wine, and wonder. Okay, near El Dorado Boulevard, up the street. I served that family a few times a week for a few years. Okay, so you kind of got to know them also. I happened to meet Rusty in a restaurant after this had happened. It was probably not quite a year. And I told him that I was doing a report in my psychology class, and it was going to be on his family. And I asked him, would it be okay if he would answer some questions for me? He had no problem with it. So I recorded him, and I asked him if I could record it so the people in the class could actually hear it coming from him. And he was fine with it. It's like he just went on with his life. And welcome to Chatting with Ms.V, coffee, wine, and water. You sound like you're not very far from Ms.V. Sting, oh, Ms.V, what about the lady who drive her kids into the ocean and said a black man? Yes, Sting, that hasn't been that long ago either. Said a black man carjacked her. She made up this whole thing. And everybody was falling for it in the beginning, but it was soon unraveled. That it couldn't have been that way. No. Hey Lino. Hey everyone, how's y'all's night? We're good over here. Thank you for coming in. You too, Jamie. Hi. I feel, in my opinion, please obtain help because the family is being destroyed every day, all day long. We're not families anymore. We're not sticking together as families. Families are so divided, and we're like segments of a family now. The family that I grew up in is not the same family we are today. They live their life. I live my life. We come together when we have to. That's not how we grew up. Mm-mm. But it is the way it is. When our regular police officers came and told us what happened, my knees buckled. I'm sure it did because you had been waiting on them. You knew them, coffee, wine, and water. Yeah. Sting of the Black Scorpion, I recall that she tried to blame a man for that. Yeah, it was a black man, manifest. Hey, Deborah Silver. Okay. Happy early birthday to you, Jamie. Okay, manifest. I agree. Some really need to deal with their mental and personal life off camera professionally, and everything does not need to be brought to social media. I don't care. Some things just need to be private and left alone. It's personal. Put too much information, and people dig up too much information and put out here on you. And I don't see the point. I don't see the purpose. Because just like you dug up on them, somebody gonna eventually come and dig something up on you. And very few people out here have a just squeaky clean background. So something's gonna come out. I don't care how you come out here and try to present yourself. There is gonna be something that's gonna come out. Now, whether it's true or not true, I don't really know, and I don't really care. And I don't like that. I don't want to know about that person's background or something that happened to them when they were 15 years old and they now 45, 55 years old. I don't personally care. They were considered, in my opinion, a child at 15. So I just can't get with all that. Okay. Things that I know, I applied for a job at the Wendy in Hobby, had to have a FBI background check. Yeah, because that's an airport. And you got people coming in from around the world, not so much at Hobby as you would Bush. um, because you still don't have a lot of international planes, if any, at this time coming into Hobby, but you have planes coming in across the U.S. Okay, hey Alice, how you doing tonight? Did he have his mom with him when you met him? No, coffee, wine, and water. I never met anybody but him. There were two other men with him at the table when he was having dinner that afternoon. Did he bring his mommy? Because the mom, if I'm not mistaken, was the one he brought into the house to help Andrea in the end. And what happened is she had this small window of opportunity to drown these kids between him leaving her and going to work, which is right there on NASA 1 at the Space Center, and the mother coming in. There was a gap, and she was able to drown 5 of these children in that gap of time. And it was a small window of opportunity. Yeah. But like I say, the oldest one was the hardest to drown. She actually physically had to hold him under. And, that kid had to be at least 10. I've forgotten the ages of the children, but he had to be at least 10. A 10-year-old is pretty strong, and especially when you're trying to hold him down and drown him. The rest of them got easier as they, went on down to the baby. I just can't imagine that. Okay. Was Rusty's mom supposed to be with her that morning, but she was late? Yes, thing. That's what happened. Hi, Tim. How are you? Welcome to Chatting with Ms.V. Okay. And Elaine, Coffee says correct. Egg, hi, how are you? And welcome to Chatting with Ms.V. I'm going to go back up to the top and speak to those that I may have missed coming in. I think I spoke to you, Annette. I've been talking to you. Hey, Miss Wanda Clayton, thank you for the roses, the hearts, and the, I don't know if that's like a wow emoji. I'm not sure. It's hard to understand, Chico. And who else said that? That was Tajisti, was the one who was saying that it's so hard to understand. I'm sorry, Tajisti, but that is something that you will probably never understand. Why would things get that bad that you would want to take your own life? And why would a man be a husband to a woman and the doctor saying for future references, it is probably best that you not have any more children because you've already been diagnosed with postpartum psychosis, but you continue on to do it anyway. And you take her through all these changes. I would be interested to see the new wife that he married shortly after all of this happened. How did he treat her? How is he treating those children? That's what I would be interested in finding out. And they're still living in the area. Okay. I also found other research that older mothers are at greater risk over 35, about 2.5 times more likely to experience this than younger mothers under the age of 19. A mother is considered postpartum 6 to 8 weeks and ends when the mother's body has nearly returned to its pre-pregnant state. Most people do not make a full recovery until a year. I found 3 phases of psychosis, postpartum psychosis: prodromal, acute, and recovering stage. So that's another thing that the men in your life need to understand, that this may not be something that once a woman starts to go through this and she does not snap out of this, that it's going to take time. Just like a physical illness takes time to heal, A mental illness will take time and a lot of therapy to get you back on track. And you may never come back to the way you were in the beginning. That needs to be understood. It is believed to be caused by hormonal changes that happens in a woman's body after she gives birth. They may feel angry, sad, irritable, and discouraged. You may see them doing a lot of crying, but these are the signs that you, the people that are around this new mother, needs to be focused in on, not so much as, oh, the baby is this and the baby is that, because babies are going to change. You don't look like you did when you were a baby. Most of us don't. We've gone through all kind of changes in life. Physical appearance changes as you get older. Going through adolescence, that was the ugly duckling period to me. Okay, if you're gonna have acne, it's gonna show up then. You're blossoming into a woman. So you're going through like a metamorphosis during those times. Let's see what else y'all are saying. I'm making sure I spoke to everybody also as I go down and reading comments and thanking everybody for coming over. This was something that Tajisti wanted to bring to the forefront tonight. I appreciate each and every one of you coming in and dropping your opinions in the chat. It's nothing over here under the sun that we can't talk about on this channel if we choose to. And I'm glad that Tajisti brought it up. I think I spoke to everybody. And if I did, I'm speaking to you now. Okay? Y'all, this has been a wonderful live. Let me get to the bottom and make sure that nobody else commented anything. Okay, Sandra McHenry came in. Sting said he should have gotten a vasectomy. Yes, and protected her and himself from going through all of this. Maybe she felt like she didn't have a way out, and this was the only way out she knew. Speaking of Tajista's friend. As for Andrea, obviously she just was in love with Rusty. And she loved children, so it was no big deal to her. But when a woman stops bathing and taking care of her personal hygiene and stuff, and she's a valedictorian of her class and a registered nurse, come on, Rusty, you saw it all. So now she suffers the rest of her life. She'll never be able to snap out of this. So I say 6 lives were lost that day. The children, the 5 children, and hers. A waste of talented woman. Ms.V, I was talking about my mom. It has been 16 years today. I went to visit her grave, just checking in, showing love. It's been so hard for me, but I have to keep pushing it. Yes, Sandra. And it gets better over time. I think mine's been gone since 99. But there are some points in the year that I really, really miss her, like this time of year. I so look forward to going home to be with my mom over the Christmas holidays. I went home for Thanksgiving and then I came back to work and then I turned around and I went back for Christmas. We always open our gifts at her home on Christmas. I look forward to going in the kitchen cooking with her and just having conversations with her, going shopping with her, going to church with her, just taking her on vacations. After she retired, I took her on a vacation every year. So I miss all of that. But it has gotten better in time. This year is going to be even harder because I lost another sibling that won't be here this holiday. He was here last holiday. So I have one brother left now, and he's 83 years old. So it's tough, but you got to find something to replace those voids in your life. And I'm glad I have extended family all around me, people I have known for a lifetime. And they make it very clear I am family. Because I've been with them to family reunions and birthdays and every celebration, the birth of a baby, a grandbaby, or whatever. I was there. And I came into Texas from Louisiana, and these people adopted me many, many years ago. So when it comes down to we are family, I'm included in everything. And it's a plus for me now because my family has gone from a family of 7 siblings down to 3. Okay? Kimberly said, are you talking about the Kaylee Anthony? No, but that's another case, Kimberly. We were talking about Andrea Yates and some woman, Coronado, out in California. But Kaylee Anthony is another case where a beautiful baby was, I guess, I don't really know the outcome of that child, what really happened in that case. The baby just came up missing. And Kaylee kind of just like went on about her life for a while as if she didn't do it. And the parents were rallying around her and everything. So I don't know. I knew she went to prison, but how much time she got or whatever, I don't know. But that was a beautiful little girl. You're so welcome, Manifest. I'm glad I found y'all. Subscribe. Thank you so much, Coffee, Wine, and Water. I appreciate that. Okay. Prayers are going up for you, Tajisti. It's going to take a lot of time, Tajisti, for you to get over that. It's shocking. That's like a family member of yours, a good friend of yours. So just take one day at a time and maybe talk to clergy, pastor, minister, maybe they can give you some answers. Doctors, somebody that's more into that field, psychiatrists, and maybe they can give you some open questions that you have that are unanswered. I've done the best I can do with it. I'm not any of those people I named that you might would want to go and see. I just happen to be a student up at U of H and did my report on Andrea Yates. And when you asked me to talk about postpartum depression, she was the first one that came to mind. Okay, let's see what else y'all are saying. Great commentary, Ms.V. Thank you, Sting. May Allah comfort each of you. Thank you so much. You'll never know what happened to Renee Ramsey. Never. That's another thing. Those people had so much money. They were out in California too, Sting. Something happened in that house. And whoever was in that house that night, they killed that little girl. And the mother and father got off. But the mother later died of, I believe, breast cancer. But nobody will ever know what happened to this child. She would be a grown woman today. Another beautiful little soul lost. Kimberly is praying, and I appreciate each and every one of y'all. I've come up on my hour, and y'all know I don't like to stay in more than an hour. Thank you, Jamie. I appreciate that. So like, share, and subscribe. I will see you good people tomorrow. Y'all have a great night. Good night sleep. Love you much. Talk to you later. Good night.